Imagine sitting on your couch late at night, your phone lighting up your face in the dark while the room stays completely quiet, and you're staring at the same numbers again, running them over and over, hoping something will finally click, but it never does. Let's call him Bob, a regular guy who makes a decent income, does what he's supposed to do, avoids major mistakes, saves where he can, and still feels like he's not getting any closer to something that would actually change his life. Every month repeats itself in a predictable cycle where money comes in, money goes out, rent takes the largest piece, and what's left feels too small to build anything meaningful. And somewhere in the background of all this, a quiet realization starts forming. This doesn't fix itself. Bob has always been careful because that's what he was taught, to wait, to save, to avoid unnecessary risk. But no one ever explained how long you're supposed to wait while everything keeps moving without you, because the market doesn't pause, prices don't slow down, and opportunities don't stay where you left them. Then one night, almost by accident, Bob comes across something different. Not a polished success story or a motivational speech, but a simple breakdown from someone who bought a small property, rented it out, and let it carry itself. He reads it carefully, slower than usual, paying attention to the details because something about it feels real, not impressive, just possible. And the numbers look simple, almost too simple. And that's when the question hits him. If this works, why isn't he doing it? Not because he can't, but because he never thought about it this way before. So Bob's perspective starts to shift, slowly and almost quietly, as he begins to look at real estate, not as something you pay for, but something that can produce. And he starts paying attention to rents, locations, and small details he used to ignore completely. He catches himself thinking differently, not, can I afford this, but can this sustain itself? And that one shift starts changing everything. But doubt doesn't disappear, it actually gets louder, because now the stakes feel real and questions start stacking up. What if he's wrong? What if something breaks? What if this sets him back years? Eventually, Bob finds a deal, not perfect, not obvious, but real enough to take seriously, and he runs the numbers again and again, almost hoping to find a reason not to go through with it. But this time, instead of walking away, he decides to move forward. The moment he commits feels heavier than expected, his savings drop, his margin for error shrinks, and for a brief moment it feels like he made a mistake, and then something actually goes wrong, something real, something expensive, something he didn't plan for. And this is where it almost ends, because one night Bob is sitting there again, staring at his account. But this time it's different. Now there's pressure, now there's responsibility, and for a moment he seriously considers quitting and going back to what felt safe. But instead he adapts. He solves the problem. Not perfectly and not easily, but enough to keep moving forward. And that moment becomes more important than the deal itself. Months pass, things stabilize, rent comes in, expenses settle, and what's left isn't huge, but it's consistent. And for the first time, Bob sees something working without his constant effort. That's the moment everything changes, because now he's not guessing anymore, he knows. So he does it again, and the second deal doesn't feel easier, but it feels clearer. And that clarity is what allows him to move faster and with more confidence. From there, progress starts stacking, not explosively but steadily, as each decision builds on the last one and each asset supports the next. And over time, what once felt impossible starts to feel structured. But here's what most people don't see. There's a long stretch where nothing looks impressive, no big wins, no dramatic breakthroughs, just consistent, quiet progress that doesn't feel exciting. And that's exactly where most people stop because it feels like it's not working fast enough. Bob doesn't stop. Years pass, and while the numbers grow, the biggest change happens in how he thinks, because he no longer waits for certainty and instead makes calculated decisions based on what he understands. And one day he realizes something simple but powerful. The difference was never timing, it was always action. So if you're still sitting there, looking at the numbers and waiting for them to finally make sense, maybe they won't. Maybe they only start working after you do. It starts small, with one decision, one uncomfortable step, one moment where you choose movement over waiting, and for Bob, that changed everything. If this made you think differently, subscribe, because the next step is where everything really begins.